All right, it's Friday, January 24th, 2025, and the recall process to remove Governor Newsom from office has begun. The signatures needed have been collected. The next step is to serve him with papers, which is happening. Also, Trump's D&I pick, Tulsi Gabbard, just hit a major hurdle in her confirmation process. Rhinos in the Senate apparently pissed off about Trump ordering the complete declassification of the JFK, the RFK, and MLK files, which ties directly into Trump's D&I nominee. We're going to explain what's happening. Also, deportation flights have begun. The worst of the worst being arrested, packed like sardines in these jumbo C-17s, being sent back home to Haiti, to Central and South America. We're going to show you the latest and more utter corruption being exposed inside our legacy media. Wait till you see this. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So President Trump visiting Ashland, North Carolina this morning, ground zero, where Hurricane Helene struck down, causing so much destruction and damage a few months ago, which the Biden administration utterly failed to help with, leaving those Americans stranded, living outside in tents in the freezing cold. Trump is fixing that. He's going to be signing executive orders to overhaul FEMA. He's also going to be visiting California soon, which will be important. Trump has major plans in store for the state of California. And from what I understand, he's going to be calling for an investigation into Gavin Newsom himself and the sheer incompetence and utter corruption that's been happening in that state for years. Here he was this morning responding to questions about Adam Schiff joining him to tour the fire damage in LA. Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, the man who was just given a blanket pardon by Joe Biden and has called Trump a threat to democracy for years, wants to join him on the ground in LA. Yeah, I don't think so. Watch this.
I was told that Schiff was going to travel with us to California. I wasn't thrilled, to be honest with you. And I saw him last night on television. It looks like he got hit with a baseball bat or something. What happened to him? Something happened to him. It looked like he got hit. It looked like he got beat around. But I'll ask Caroline to find out what happened to him. No, if he wanted to come out, I would have done that. But I don't know. Somebody said that he wanted to come on the plane, but I think he's staying back for the votes. There's some pretty good votes going on. Yeah.
It's been almost 3 weeks since the LA fires began. 3 weeks, and LA is still on fire. Gavin Newsom's largest city, the second largest city in the United States. It's unbelievable. The residents of LA County want Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass gone. The recall effort was announced last week, and yesterday, as promised, signatures began to be collected. The group who launched the recall efforts, called Saving California, yesterday successfully collecting the first 50 signatures. One of those signatories was RFK Jr. III. The next step is to serve the governor, Newsom, with the letter of intent, which is happening this week. Bottom line, this is happening. Newsom knows it's happening. He's running out of time. His political team responded to the recall campaign, saying this has been tried in the past multiple times, and each time it's failed. The governor's focused on fires, they said, not on politics. If you're living in California, this is a real opportunity for change. The last time Newsom faced a recall election, 61% of you, 61% of Californians voted no. The reason is because LA County was solid blue, or is solid blue. LA is Newsom's stronghold. Well, not anymore. LA wants him gone. It's very unlikely he can withstand another recall election. We're going to keep you posted after he's been served these papers on the next steps. In another story, Donald Trump has fulfilled a major campaign promise yesterday, signing an executive order to declassify all, I repeat, all remaining classified and redacted documents on the JFK, the RFK, and MLK assassination, something Trump was advised not to do yet, that he'd make enemies on the Senate Intel Committee and in the IC. From what I understand, this messaging came from Mike Pompeo and Mitch McConnell. And don't forget, the reason Trump didn't do this his first term was because Mike Pompeo convinced him not to. So why is Pompeo sticking his nose into this again? He's not even in Trump's administration. Well, who is Pompeo? He was former Secretary of State, former CIA director. Clearly, he's fully looped into all of this, even though he shouldn't be. Why is Pompeo and McConnell so against these disclosure efforts? It's a good question. Well, their plan clearly didn't work. Trump did it. He signed the order. Listen closely to what he said after signing it. This is important.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you give this one to RFK Jr. Doing this now was incredibly important. This was more than just a campaign promise, more than just a personal promise he made to RFK Jr., which he's now fulfilled. This was a message. He was sending a message, and it didn't come for free. Tulsi Gabbard is now on the chopping block. She's enemy number one. They need to kill her nomination if they want any chance at stopping these declassifications. And this is why her confirmation is so important. DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, is the person who physically signs off, approves the declassification. That person can slow walk the process. That person has a lot of sway and control over what is actually released to the public. Tulsi, though, fully backs this. She shares our view that the American people have every right to see and know what our government's doing. Well, her confirmation's now in jeopardy. Hours after Trump signed this EO, he was told that Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and Mitch McConnell will most likely be voting no on Tulsi. Trump can only lose 2 votes if there's no Dem defections. Was Pompeo involved in orchestrating this somehow? Was he working with McConnell on it? I don't know for sure, but that's what looks like to have happened. And Trump is pissed, very upset. So upset, in fact, he pulled Pompeo's Secret Service protection. That's Trump fighting back. And that's not a small thing. Pompeo has a lot of enemies around the world. He also pulled Fauci's Secret Service protection last night. Here he was this morning, asked if he'd feel responsible if something happened to Fauci or Bolton or Pompeo because he did this. Watch his response.
Security detail for Anthony Fauci was terminated last night, and I'm wondering if you have any comment on that.
About what?
The security detail for Anthony Fauci was terminated last night, sir. Do you have a comment?
No, I think, when you work for government, at some point your security detail comes off. And, you can't have them forever. So I think it's very standard. If it would be for somebody else, you wouldn't be asking the question. The question is very fair. But, you work for government. We took some off, other people too. But you can't have a security detail for the rest of your life because you worked for government. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Would you feel partially responsible if something were to happen to, say, Dr. Fauci
No.
or John Bolton?
No. They all made a lot of money. They can hire their own security, too. All the people you're talking about, they can go out. I can give them some good numbers of very good security people. They can hire their own security. They all made a lot of money. Fauci made a lot of money. They all did. So if they, felt that strongly, I think that certainly I would not take responsibility.
Look, it's like we've said dozens of times. Trump needs to stay on offense. That's been his plan since he won in November, to overwhelm these people, keep the resistance on defense, come in with a shock and awe approach so they can't keep up. And that's what's happening. He's on total offense, signing executive order after executive order to expose these people, expose the corruption, start declassifying everything, shut down the DEI offices, pull out of all these NATO or UN treaties, pull out of the WHO, strip their security clearances, which he is doing. That's what's happening here. History is happening in front of us, folks. History is being made, and it's happening very fast. In another story, Trump's mass deportation plan is fully underway. Deportation flights have begun. The worst of the worst are being arrested and now packed like sardines in these jumbo C-17s and 2 C-130s last night, being sent Back home to Haiti, to Central and South America, last night ABC News confirmed that 4 military cargo planes have been positioned for deportation flights of these illegal aliens. This morning, the White House released this video showing them boarding the flights. And it's not just these ICE deportations. Migrant encounters at the border ports of entry have cratered since Trump took office. This is the Trump effect in action. This morning, roads heading out of the United States to Mexico are jam-packed. These illegal migrants are deporting themselves, self-deportation. They don't want to be arrested. They'd rather choose to leave on their own, and good riddance. In another story, left-wing publication Politico has just been exposed and outed for blocking negative stories about Joe Biden, about Hunter Biden, and the infamous Hunter Biden laptop story. Former Politico reporters Mark Caputo and Tara Palmieri have come forward to blow the whistle on the paper's corruption. Mark Caputo says, "I was told the order came from on high at Politico. Don't write about the laptop. And the only thing Politico wrote was that piece that called it disinformation." Watch this.
Another great example when Politico did that terrible, ill-fated headline. 51 intelligence agents or former intelligence agents say that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation,
right,
or bore the hallmarks of disinformation. Turns out that story was closer to disinformation because the Hunter Biden laptop appeared to be true.
But then Facebook also pulled all stories down about the Hunter Biden laptop, and I think Twitter did at the same time too.
Correct.
Yeah.
They punished the New York Post. It didn't help. I mean, Politico, my former employer, and I knew at the time, didn't do itself any favors. I was covering Biden at the time, and I remember coming to my editor and saying, "Hey, we need to write about the Hunter Biden laptop." And I was told this came from on high at Politico. Don't write about the laptop, don't talk about the laptop, don't tweet about the laptop. And the only thing Politico wound up writing was that piece that called it disinformation, which charitably could be called misinformation at the least.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time. I wrote some pretty serious reporting on Hunter Biden, which actually ended up getting him prosecuted, the story on the gun.
Yeah, and I remember you consulted with me because you did the original report on the gun, and you came to me like, "How do I write about this?" I'm like, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, because it was hard to get it done.
You figured it out. Yeah.
I spent three months on it. I went to the laptop shop and I did all of the reporting in Delaware, and I did all of that. But yeah, it had to be like it had to be 100% nailed down. I had everything, the police reports, I'm a solid reporter, but I do wonder if it would have been published a little quicker. If it was a different type of story.
Well, since we're spilling tea about our former employer, I still have a copy of the story on my external hard drive. In 2019, a rival presidential Democratic campaign of Joe Biden's gave to me the tax lien, the Oppo research, the tax lien on Hunter Biden for the period of time that he worked at Burisma. And I wrote what would have been a classic story saying, the former vice president's son was slapped with a big tax lien for the period of time that he worked for this controversial Ukrainian oil concern or natural gas concern, which is haunting his father on the campaign trail. That story was killed by the editors, and they gave no explanation for that either.
Interesting.
So that general experience, obviously the public doesn't know about those things, but as a reporter, having witnessed the way in which the two candidates
we just get called like the terrible mainstream media. It's like you don't understand the process there.
We also don't understand the dumb decision of cowardly editors that are made.
The man above us when we're trying to do our jobs. You know what I mean? We're just looking for scoops, man.
And look, I'm really not surprised at all by this, but what is surprising is how it's all coming out like this very fast. And again, another example of why nobody should trust the legacy media. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.